Hey my ducklings, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I DIY'd my beautiful gallery wall. So if you'd like to see how I achieved this, please keep watching. When I decided on doing my own gallery wall, I knew that I wanted it to be really affordable, and I also had to take into consideration the fact that I was in Ladysmith, and so there weren't a lot of stores where I could just walk in and get all the frames that I was looking for. So the closest thing that I could do was find a whole bunch of frames that I was happy with and then DIY them so that they would obviously look like how I wanted them. I took a day and went into the stores, and I ended up finding these set of 3 frames from Sheet Street. So I got 2 sets which made 6 frames, and I knew that I wanted to have 8 frames hung, so I needed to find 2 more frames that matched the frames that I had already bought. So the look that I was going for was a thin frame and then to have a white border on the inside of each picture, and obviously my image printed in the center. So I managed to find these teal frames that are actually a pegboard washing line situation that you put on your desk and you can hang up your notes and whatever. So I decided to use these, take out the center and spray all the frames white, since these were the only frames that I found that were the same thickness as the frames I got from Sheet Street. The first step after you have already found your frames is to trace them out on newspaper and cut these out to use as templates so that you can hang it on your wall and plan out exactly how you want your gallery wall to look. You will see me doing this later on in the video and you will get an idea of exactly what I mean. So because of the size of the frames, I decided to use newspaper, which would be big enough for me to fit the frames on, and cut out big enough templates to hang on my wall. Once you have traced out and cut out a template for each of the frames, remember to mark out where the hooks are at the back of each frame so that when you are hanging your template, you will be able to mark out exactly where you need to drill your hole, so that when you place your nail into the wall, your pictures will be hung exactly as you measured them. So before you can spray the frames, you need to remove the back, which I did with a pair of scissors just because it hurts when you use your fingers. So you pull out the back, take out the glass, and once you have wiped down the frames, you can spray paint them. So I noticed with the silver frames, they were sprayed with a type of varnish which made it a little bit difficult for the paint to stick to, but when I tried to sand them down, it ended up leaving the frame quite rough and I couldn't smooth it down enough. So when I sprayed it, it had a little bit of texture. So I decided not to sand down any of the other frames because I wanted it to have that smooth finish. So instead, I just made sure to spray a couple more coats of the white just so that it would cover the frames evenly. One thing to remember when using spray paint is to not overdo it like I'm doing in the video. Take your time, spray a very little amount each time, and basically just let it dry down between each coat. I would suggest that you take a little bit longer and spray a couple more coats. But when you do it this way, you won't have any excess paint that drips over and you'll have a smoother, cleaner finish. Also, another tip that I have for you is to try and make sure that wherever you are spray painting your frames, that you have covered it with some sort of plastic to protect the surface you are working on, and also prop up the frames on something that will keep them lifted up high. As you can see, I'm using the wooden boxes that I had as display shelves in my room, just so that when I'm spray painting, the frames don't get stuck to the table. So while I waited for the frames to dry, I moved on to measuring out and placing the templates on my wall just to see exactly how I wanted to hang the frames. And this takes a little bit of time. It's all about trial and error and basically figuring out exactly what you prefer. There is no right or wrong way to do this. It all comes down to your preference. Do we like it? I feel like it kind of needs to be more spaced out, right? I don't know. When I hung my gallery wall, I did not use any exact measurements. I did everything very organically and I just spaced it out by eye. So as you can see, each time I stuck up my templates, I stood far away to make sure that I liked the way that the frames looked. When I didn't, I got back up, took everything off and started rearranging the way I placed the frames. A good way to find some inspiration is to go onto Pinterest and basically search for gallery wall ideas, and they have a lot of different setups and they show you different ways in which you can hang your frames. So I tried a few of the frame ideas that I found, but I ended up kind of editing and switching it up just slightly in the end and managed to find something that worked out perfect for me. Also bear in mind that when you are hanging the templates, that you are hanging them the right side up so that the places where you marked where the hooks of the frames go are in the right place. So when you are hanging your templates, you are able to mark directly onto the wall where you are going to need to drill your holes for your screws later on. Alright, so here. When I was doing my research on gallery walls, frames, and images, I noticed that people overseas generally go onto websites, order the frames, order images that come in a set, and basically all you have to do is once they've posted it to you, you stick the pictures into the frames, which all come perfectly measured out, and you hang them. But because I am doing this on my own, I decided that I was just going to choose a bunch of pictures from my personal images, edit them so that they are all black and white because I wanted to have that monochromatic look, but also so that it was all cohesive and that there wasn't like a mix and match of too many different colors, because that is not what I was going for. And then once I had edited all my images, I basically just stuck them into a Word document and played around with the measurements until I managed to get the borders around the image perfectly to size. So the hack that I did here was I took out the kind of picture that you already get in the frame and I just measured it up against my screen and eyeballed and kind of figured out how big I needed to make the images, and then I printed them. So this was all trial and error. It obviously is going to change depending on the size of your frame and how thick you want the border to be around your images. But yeah, this was my quick and easy way of DIYing my own images. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I printed my images on normal paper with normal printing ink. I didn't use anything special. But also bear in mind, when you do it this way, your images might be a little bit pixelated, your pictures might come out a little bit too harsh, and you kind of need to adjust the settings on your printer and your laptop while you are doing this. It's like I said, it is all trial and error. But after I was happy with all my images that I had printed, I cut them out and placed them into my frames, and then I was done. As you can see, while I am busy cutting out my images, I'm using the picture that came in the frame as a reference guide so that I could cut out the pictures exactly to size. Also make sure that when you are putting your frames back together that your glass is clean and it doesn't have any fingerprints or any dirt marks left over. So just grab a damp cloth and wipe them down. So once I was done with all my pictures and my frames and I was happy with everything, I started drilling out the holes in my wall. So the quickest and cleanest way to do this is to grab a plastic bag, stick some masking tape on it, and then stick it on the wall directly under where you are going to be drilling, so that when you are drilling into the wall, the dust falls down into the bag and you do not have a whole big mess to clean up afterwards. So I was fortunate enough that my mom had enough screws and anchors that were big enough to hold the frames and strong enough to hold the frames. So I just needed to drill my holes, put my anchors in, add in my screws, and then hang my frames. Just remember that when you are using screws to hang your frames, that you shouldn't screw in the screws completely so that you have enough space to hang your frames. Make sure to keep a level on hand just to make sure that you have hung your frames straight and that they are looking neat. So that is pretty much it for how I did my DIY gallery wall. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video.